Quiet on Set.
And action.
Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Ewan Graf and I'm joined by Kevin Taelemans. And on today's show, we'll review the second film in the 28 Years Later trilogy, which is the fourth film overall in the 28 Days Later franchise, directed by Nia DaCosta and still written by Alex Garland.
This week's spotlight reviews are Rental Family, starring Brendan Fraser as an American actor who gets a gig pretending to be someone else in everyday life, which just released on VOD. Over on Netflix, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck star in The Rip, a tense crime action thriller about a team of Miami cops that discover millions inside of a stash house. But who can you trust? Ooh.
And finally, on Spotlight World Cinema, we're taking a look at Infernal Affairs, the crime drama that's the basis for Scorsese's Best Picture winning The Departed. Is the original maybe even better than that film? Stick around to find out. All right, welcome back, Kevin. We got, again, like always, lots to talk about, and we're kicking it off with a few news items. You brought something to our attention.
I brought something
here.
because we last week were sort of complaining about the spillover movies and why the Academy Awards are in goddamn March. I saw a tweet by Awards Watch Eric Anderson, who sort of gave a time schedule with all of these award shows that are also the smaller divisions like DGA, PGA, like all the different subsections you got. And I just realized there are too many awards. The day of this recording, like this evening, the European Film Awards will have happened. So we'll know who are the winners and nominees on next week's episode. But I was just looking, man, and it's bonkers to me. You got American Cinema Editors, you got British Academy Film Awards, you got the Writers of American nominations, and that's just all at the end of January, with the 22nd of January being the Oscar nomination. And then in February, you actually got all these shows. It's too many, man. I mean, look, Directors Guild of America, costume designers, makeup artists, film independent spirits, all happening almost in the same week. You got the Film Independent Spirit Awards now. That is something I actually am looking forward to, because that's where the smaller movies get praised, even though it's on a small little tent. I mean, it's not a small tent, but it's a tent on a beach. Then you got the Academy Film Awards, the BAFTAs. Then you got the Visual Effects Society Awards. It's just so many, man. You got the Producers Guild of America now. And the 1st of March, you got the SAG-AFTRA Awards, which are on Netflix. For once, you got the Writers Guild of America Awards, because last year the Writers Guild of America Awards were actually after the Oscars, which is, again, so weird, because by then, the Oscars are your cap off of the awards season, then you got shit that comes after it. It just feels weird. But it's just like, it's so many things. And I get, the Writers Guild, the Producers Guild, Directors Guild, every branch separately great. But as someone to follow that, it's just too stacked.
Yeah, I feel like the one thing that is the biggest complaint on my end is that this whole month in February, with all of these awards happening and being given out, especially the bigger ones towards the end there, when we head into March, or the end of February, right on the 28th of February, we got the PGA, Producers Guild. On the 1st, we got SAG, and then on the 5th, Oscar voting ends. And I feel like they do have a lot of time right now from the 22nd on. They know what the Oscar nominees are going to be for those who haven't watched them, which I feel like is probably still a notable chunk of the voting body of the Oscars. So then they can actually start watching the stuff that is going to be in the nominations. And I feel like they have too long to watch all of those. Like, it should be something that if you vote in this body, you should seek out more movies. Like, you should be movie watching it. These shouldn't be the only, if you vote for Best Picture, it shouldn't be the only 10 movies you watched that year. That just doesn't make any sense. And not that that's the case, but it feels like it's such a long campaign stretch of all of these movies being mentioned again and again, and they pick up trailer, and like that whole ordeal of a movie campaigning for an award, to me is just off. It feels like
and all the money that comes with it.
Yeah, that's being spent for all of these people to schmooze them. I guess to get the nomination in, you had to have already done that, because nominations have closed by the time, like actually yesterday, from the time we record. So they are set. They're now just like announcing them sometime next week. We'll cover it. Maybe we'll even cover
Thursday.
that. Maybe we'll even do a live stream again reacting to it. We'll see. Yeah, like what I wanted to make really long to get to my point. But PGA and SAG happening at the very end, right before Oscar voting ends, is going to be the thing that, like, you know, is going to be the precursor of like, okay, what actually, you know, will end up winning it is what you see at the PGA and SAG. It's like 4 days after SAG that they still have for voting, and it is going to influence who's going to get the vote. And I feel like that's just like fundamentally something wrong with that, because it's campaigning, and like, yeah, I don't know, it's just it drags it out so long.
And we also said last week, well, all that time for one battle after another to take it anyway. And I feel like that's also what the Oscars have become the last couple of years. They've always come so predictable because of all these precursors, because of all these award shows that everybody's starting to follow because of this. And I don't want to really blame it, but you have this like sort of gambling mentality now with the Oscars. That I have these, I gotta have 5 out of 5, I gotta get that. And honestly, that's why I don't really like all these precursors and all these awards, because I only watch the Oscars. So when I watch it, and then you have all seen these predictability things, and you're like, oh yeah, that will win now. And the only surprises during that show are the speeches or potentially the bits they have planned, which Conan O'Brien makes me excited. In the past, it didn't really. With some of the hosts or even the hostless additions they did. But again, a little bit complaining about all this talk now. Also about the discourse, because once we are in this phase, then people are sort of critiquing the movie that got praised in the past, and then the whole discourse becomes a bit toxic. Like, oh no, that movie's way better because this, and it's just become so sour.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing of like, do you actually want something to win Best Picture if it's more niche, or will it just get hate from a larger audience as being overrated immediately because it won the Oscar? So I feel like a lot of these awards bodies ultimately in what they do don't really get, like, for example, for an input for someone who works at running theaters, because there's like, for example, Marty Supreme isn't even in theaters here yet.
Yeah, same.
Rarely, like sometimes we do like to, you know, pull something back into theaters, and after it's won an Oscar or something, or again with the European thing, it might have only released then. It has basically no effect, at least like here locally. It really doesn't make a big difference that people seek it out, and that's very anecdotal, you know, sort of proof or something to say, but it's just that the effect that this, to me at least, this award season should have to spotlight the best of the best, that people go out in droves to go seek it, to not miss it in theaters. That's just not really happening as much. I feel like that excitement happens beforehand, and that's why we say, like, let's focus on something else, something new, because the time of that movie has already passed. But yeah.
And the only, because we're sort of like, you know, beating a dead horse here, but the only advantage with this is that the change in Oscar voting, where you have to have seen the movies in order to vote in said category, like that's a rule now. I don't know how they enforce that rule, but it is a rule nonetheless, and that is the only advantage I see to this long period, that every Academy member can watch all of these movies, because they are busy people as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So that's the only advantage I see to this whole ordeal. But anyway, what's the next news item we got?
A whole bunch of more movies. You brought this across my virtual desk here, that South by Southwest has announced their lineup. I don't know how final it is. I don't know if there's any more movies.
There's probably more coming, yeah.
South by Southwest is a festival that, the movie part is only about like a third of it. Because there's a ton of music happening. They always do stuff with games as well. Like it's basically a whole, all sorts of media festival overall. Happens at the beginning of March, and there's also some spin-offs of it that happened, like from the 12th to the 16th of March. It's in Austin. I believe in June, the beginning of June, it will happen in London, and then in October, it's actually also in Sydney. So worldwide festival here. I feel like that's a pretty nice thing about festival. It's not the same selections that they bring.
No. I don't think so.
But the biggest movie that's also the headliner of the festival, or in the headliner category, is I Love Boosters, the new movie from Boots Riley. So glad that we get to hear from that film. So soon. I thought that was going to be like a later premiere, but I wouldn't really have known at what festival it would premiere. And South by Southwest actually makes perfect sense because it feels like similar to TIFF. It has a lot of like American directors, a big like English cast. Like all of these movies up, like it's not going to be your like for Americans foreign language films that premiere here. There's a few I assume in between, but you also got bigger premieres like for Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, or They Will Kill You. There's a bunch of horror films that premiere there. You wanted to shout out that pizza movie. Sounds quite intriguing.
Yeah. I also wanted to shout out Sender, because that's starring Brit Lauer, Rhea Seehorn. Like again, two powerhouses on TV teaming up in a movie. Also David Dastmalchian, which I am always looking forward. Like that's an actor. Whenever he pops up, I know like I'm in for something good. But yeah, I wanted to shout out. Let me quickly. Where the hell is it? Because this website, like the movies are that big, and then you got a little text, and it's like that big of a picture, so you have to scroll down so goddamn far. But yeah, I wanted to shout out Pizza Movie, because I just think that synopsis is quite bonkers. Also, with that synopsis, there's like a lot of potential for failure, because the synopsis sounds sort of like stretched thin, so the movie could be quite run out of fumes quickly. But the synopsis reads: a group of college students go downstairs to their dorm lobby to get a delivery pizza. There's only one issue: they're insanely high on a homemade drug during their simple journey down 2 sets of stairs into a mind-bendingly transformative quest, starring Gaten Matarazzo. And I don't really know the rest of the cast, but I'm looking forward to that movie, because again, that's a synopsis that I read, and I'm intrigued. And most of these synopsises, we've talked about it in the past, it's always either a super long one that's very detailed, or a super short one that's very vague. And that's the synopsis that just gets me excited right out of the gate.
And we'll just leave a link below for the South by Southwest website, because there is a ton more, especially with cast, that at least are intriguing, but it's harder to tell if something is like worthwhile. That's why it's great when people can go out to these festivals, cover these festival premieres, and hopefully the movies premiere soon after.
Again, it's like the beginning of the year. It's like Sundance, Berlinale, and Sundance. Like those are the three, also sort of following up each other.
But Sundance, Berlinale, and then you said South by Southwest. You said Sundance
South by
again.
Southwest. Yeah, sorry.
Those three, and I mean, they happen like, end of January, in the middle of February, beginning of March. So you really have like 3 festivals in 3 months. So for those
and then it's gone in May. Yeah.
And then we have the break in April, sorta, and then May. It's gone.
All right, but hey, in case anybody's watching and is going to Berlinale, let us know how the movies are, because we aren't going. But we'll try
again next year. Third time's the charm. I actually did get in 3 years ago, but I didn't go. So I feel like maybe they hate me. They just don't want me anymore because I didn't.
I still haven't gotten the rejection email though. It would be so funny.
It would be very funny if I get rejected, but you get in.
Yeah.
But yeah, the final piece of news here, just briefly. I feel like something that people in some ways have been awaiting for a long time. because she often gets the blame. Maybe I don't know how justified. I don't know. Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down as head of Lucasfilm, which is the one that's doing all the Star Wars stuff. And Dave Filoni and Lin-Vin Brennan are taking over. I don't know if Dave Filoni is the one to solve the problems that maybe there are with, because he's part of them. It's like you're looking for a replacement and you just sub in the guy who's already been doing part of what's not been working. But obviously, the whole TV side of Star Wars was really his brainchild, and that's moving to the big screen. But I think since the Last Skywalker, was that the movie in 2018?
The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of
2019,
Skywalker.
yeah.
Not the Last Skywalker. He's never going to be the last.
The Last Jedi,
I really, Last Jedi and the Return of Sky. Exactly. I like Star Wars a lot, especially the classic ones. Not really the prequels, not really the sequel trilogy that much. And the shows I've just kind of watched because I watch everything. But it hasn't gotten me super excited. Apart from Andor, I think Andor is really good. Dave Filoni, for example, has also said that he doesn't like Andor.
Yeah,
which is a really good indicator for me. But what do you think?
I mean, the hate that she has gotten, because you also have to remember Lucasfilm is also the Indiana Jones. And she had an interview where, the young male audience isn't that interested in Indiana Jones anymore. And it's they're pretty interested in it, considering, there's a game out there that did pretty well with Troy Baker.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some interest still there. But I just think, it's a role, being the head of Lucasfilm, it's just a role that, gets shit thrown at you so quickly when things doesn't get right. And, they had so much confidence in Rian Johnson, and I really liked The Last Jedi, but then you get the public isn't really happy with The Last Jedi, the critics were sort of lukewarm on it, so I think it just soured, and then the next one had to be a hit to sort of get everybody, ready for Star Wars again, and then that just is a big dumpster fire, and I think from that moment on, she already should sort of have left, but she stayed there for 6 more years. And with meddling results, of course, you got Andor, which has been critically received, but then you also have Mandalorian, which in the beginning I was actually quite excited about. I mean, look.
It was huge.
It was look huge in the back.
Beginning. Yeah.
I mean, I have a giant Grogu plushie. Even in university, during COVID, when you had to be behind your desk and you had to have your camera on, I just put on a Baby Yoda background, and my face wasn't before it. So when you would go to the big audience picture, you would see all these kids, and then you had Baby Yoda, because teams recognize Baby Yoda as a face. So that's just my funny story. But I really don't have much to say about this. I don't really watch Star Wars anyway. I haven't even seen Andor. I don't really have that much hope in the Mandalorian and Grogu, especially in the way that it looks. But it also is very cinematic in the show. So, translating that is just weird overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got Mandalorian and Grogu coming out on May 22nd. And then in 2026, we got Sean Levy's.
Oh, already? That quickly?
Taking a moment in 2027. Star Wars Starfighter. Sorry, I just had to take a moment. Had to take the beat there because I said his name. I was like, oh god.
Alright, Ewan, are you already wide awake for the main review now? I mean, we are recording half an hour.
I'm ready. Right? I'm ready for the main review. Let's talk about the fourth film in the 28 something later franchise. This one is part of a trilogy of movies spearheaded by Alex Garland, Danny Boyle. After Danny Boyle directed the first one, Nia DaCosta is taking over for here. Not 28 years later too, but the Bone Temple, because the focus is all around Ralph Fiennes, Dr. Kelson. Rafe?
Yeah, you say Rafe.
It's Rafe. Oh, it's not Ralph. Okay. Sorry, I said it in an American way.
Yeah, you did.
All right. As Spike is inducted into Jimmy Crystal's gang on the mainland, Dr. Kelson makes a discovery that could alter the world. We love a really brief, simple synopsis that doesn't over-explain much.
I just want to correct one thing. It's Sir Jimmy Crystal.
It's Jimmy Crystal, exactly. His Highness. The simplicity of the synopsis kind of speaks to how this movie feels compared to the first one, because in the way we also are not using the same cinematography, not the same cinematographer shooting this, not on these like action cam like iPhone rig that like goes around each time you kill, because the focus is incredibly is different, and it even starts out like very differently. I wouldn't say it's very much more cinematic. I think it's not like that, like overhyped or anything. It is a bit more bit less constrained with the technology of like an iPhone camera, and it's a bit more traditionally shot. I think this movie is also, compared to the first one, which was way more about like killing the sort of the undead or the infected, and this one is way more about like killing other humans. And the way that they do it felt like all of the kills in the first one were like, they were less brutal, and this one, the way that they kill humans is so grotesque at times that, like, I don't know how you felt, but this is not an easy watch for the faint of heart. It is pretty fucking disturbing at times.
Admire the evolution of this series, of this franchise. The first one being this very also emotionally heavy inspection of 28 days into the apocalypse. Again, Cillian Murphy on those tweets, it's so iconic by now. Then you have 28 weeks later, a movie that a lot of people are willing to shuffle under, away. But hey, opening of 28 weeks later is one of the best in the franchise. I mean, that chase and everything with that opening, my God, 28 weeks later, and I at sometimes slaps, but people are just, sort of shuffling that away. Then you have 20 years later, which was great. We've talked about that in the past, especially in the horror episode. And now you got 28 years later, Bone Temple. By the way, can I just say quickly, in some territories, it's called 28 years later, part 2, the Bone Temple, which frustrates the ever-living shit out of me. But anyway.
It's like similar to like Ready or Not, that sequel. It's Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. And I think in some places it will be Ready or Not, Here I Come.
Which has a sort of innuendo. But anyway. Yeah, as you said, this movie is way more gritty. Where this first chapter in this trilogy was very emotionally resonant, this one is quite a societal relevant movie to me. This is a great change. I saw a video of, hey, look at all these directors in this MCU jail that once they escape, they make such great movies with Ryan Coogler and the whole this. And now you got Nia DaCosta, and I'm like, no. The reason why this is good, I mean, Nia DaCosta does a phenomenal job, but here she gets put in a playground where, with a producer like Danny Boyle, a writer with Alex Garland, and even, Cillian Murphy being involved as well, they're like, okay, this is the skeleton of this trilogy, and this is how much leeway you get. And you can feel that she gets leeway. She isn't restricted at all. And all these elements come to play. And I compared this movie, this series really, with Mission Impossible. Because every entry feels different. You got a different director, except, with Danny Boyle, of course. But you got the writer that is overwhelming the whole thing. And with this one, Bone Temple, I thought the score was great. Hildur Guðnadóttir.
Oh yeah, she's incredible. She has some
phenomenal job.
She had some great scores to her, like done some great scores already. She was honored this year at the Zurich Film Festival as well.
Oh really?
Yeah, for her work. Yeah, no, she's done some incredible work.
And I know she is also doing the score of The Bride, but that really feels more again like a repeat of Joker. But with the Bone Temple, I didn't feel that at all. And for me, the biggest surprise of this, it's not really a surprise, but how great was Ray Fiennes? My God, this guy is so game for a role like this. And he's like just over 60 years old. I mean, my God, what an actor! What a role!
I'm a loss loss for words for what to say about his performance, because it's also just him as a sort of malleable actor who can do, like, sort of the supporting act in the first one, but also like completely different movies as well. But then he can also lead a movie here with the core of the theme, and sort of how he just like sort of, because we are gonna talk spoilers about this. It doesn't make sense for the full film and the franchise to not do that. The way that when he and Jimmy meet, like sort of bring him down from his like sort of performative thing to like slightly something real, and them opening up, and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like he's this sort of thing that just like calms everything down in a magic way, but you can feel it. It's truly special. Covered in this ironite thing, or just like in the red color. He looks like a crazy person, but it's the most sane. And I don't know. Like, I love that the spectacle of this movie is him performing to be the devil. Like, that is the peak of this film, and it is so entertaining as well. But like, yeah, I think a lot of this goes to Alex Garland. Sort of weaving this through. I think this is great that he's writing the whole trilogy. Otherwise, if you switch directors in between, I think this is not, that does just come out way different. It probably does, right? If someone takes on and says like, it's a Star Wars effect to bring it back, of like, hey, you end with the Jimmies, now what's up with the Jimmies? And then like in the second one, the Jimmies they're not really that relevant. But yeah, what did you think about like, we'll get back to Dr. Kelson again, but what did you think of Sir Jimmy? Yes, the Jimmies and his fingers.
To be fair, I was a bit surprised by the fact, because a lot of things were said about the ending of 28 Years Later, when they sort of pop up on there and then they go full Ninja Turtles on these zombies. A lot of people were concerned about the tone of the sequel. The tone of the sequel was pretty toned down from that Ninja Turtle sequence. I was expecting way more of that. And it wasn't. We still start off pretty strong with Spike in the pool, who has to sort of have a fight to the death in order to survive or to be accepted to this group as a finger. And I was also surprised at the lack of Spike, even because, you thought, oh, hey, you have Ray Fiennes, you have Aaron Taylor-Johnson, you have Jodie Comer, and they're sort of gonna, give off the baton to the actor that plays Spike, Alfie Williams. And I thought, oh shit, he's gonna have like a tough job to carry this movie, The Bone Temple. And he isn't really the main focus. The main focus really is on Sir Jimmy Crystal and Ray Fiennes' character, as you said. So those are the two storylines, and he plays a supporting part in both of them. And I don't know, because I really like this performance. I do think he's a strong actor, not just a strong kid actor. But perhaps they were like, maybe you have to mature just a bit, and he's gonna have to do some more heavyweight in the third chapter. And if so, I am very much looking forward to that, because you can still feel like, he has some experience to gain. It's not a flawless performance from him, but you have these two storylines, and for me, the reason why I call this a societal relevant movie is because these two storylines. You'd have Sir Jimmy's, which is more of an ideology, like a take on ideology, and then you got Ray Fiennes' character, which is more focused on rehabilitation. And that, for me, is this movie in a nutshell. You got ideology. What if there is this guy who, in really tough times, in apocalyptic times, is taking advantage of these people that want to believe in something greater? Oh, hey, in this case, Satan. And then you got Ray Fiennes, who is concerned. He has such a great line at a certain moment, which, like, some doctors are looking at you physically, they are looking at you mentally, and they're like, oh, what are you seeing? But he was more interested in, oh, what are you perhaps not seeing, or actually seeing instead of what we are thinking that you see. And he's more focused on the psychosis, on the psyche of Samson, the big zombie that he honestly befriends. And that sort of makes this movie surprisingly funny. Again, like, this movie has so many surprises. I've said it a few times, but when Ray finds he's standing in that field, and Samson comes to out of the woods, and then he blows the darts at him to calm him down, and then there's a shot in the trailer where he lays his hand on Samson's shoulder, and the next cut, literally the next cut, is them sitting next to each other. Ray finds being a bit, smaller than Samson, because Samson's so huge, and it just looks like two dudes at the playground in like kindergarten.
Yeah, it's just
and it's so funny. Out. And Luca and I were laughing because we were like, that cut was so viciously short and quick. Like it's quite funny, but absurdly funny. And the middle part of this movie lulls a tiny bit, but that is because it builds to a ripping finale. I mean, my God, Metal Ray finds there was a tweet that said like, "Oh, there is no song that could make me do this pose," referring to the Bone Temple. And then that guy re-quoted his own tweet, and he's like, "Oh, it turned out there is a song that perfectly made you do that, which is Iron Maiden." But I've talked a bit. What do you think about what I've said so far?
I mean, it's that sort of friendship that's on the basis of like healing and like the sort of solitude, the loneliness that he feels, that is, you always feel like it's very fragile, because you don't know if you can sort of trust that this the lifting of the psychosis can either be solved long term, or it almost, you expect something bad to happen, that like this is somewhat short-sighted, or with zombies, that like it ends up biting him in the ass, that like this is actually just death, and we always learn like someone's truly gone, and for them to take a different approach on this, where they are just infected and sort of in the state of psychosis, and getting that POV when he's eating someone's brains as well, of like what he sees, I think was quite needed. And I think it also needed to be done from a more Nia DaCosta like perspective, other than the one on the phones, because that to me, the phones, like, silly as it sounds, like it's a bit more of like the human side of it all, like that sort of technology. And then we do take a more of a sometimes observing look at sort of like, that's where the comedy comes from, where we just like look at them further away, and it sometimes feels not like to a great extent, but it feels a bit more like we're just pulled back and watching these things unfold as like a bystander who can't do anything. And it feels that way in the violence, where you feel like you're part of that group as well, of the fingers, and you want to leave, but you can't. And then the other side is such a complete contrast of like, it's just them hanging out. So it's like obviously these two ideologies clashing against each other, and then maybe realizing what Jimmy is sort of missing from what Kelson would have to offer, which is just someone to actually talk to. Like he says, it's just really like honestly very realistic for the world, but it's still kind of tragic when he says like he basically has never enjoyed like talking to someone ever. This is the first time he sort of enjoyed a conversation, and it's like, and you feel like, hey, maybe some of these things are very exaggerated in how brutal they are, how ruthless they are. Like when they what they don't say, they do their offering. What do they say? They are
sacrifice.
They sacrifice. They don't say sacrifice. They say something else, I believe. But when they do that, like it's just you feel like, is his conviction wrong? Right? Is he doing it to keep in charge of this group, or does he actually believe it? And the more you uncover it, and you sort of realize that he was fucked up from an early age, obviously with this invasion, with a group of people who are around the same age as he is. So they're as fucked up as he is, or have never known anything else in this world. It still is like, it does feel to me in parts like a movie, that's taking place in this world, not like sort of where it doesn't break the illusion a few times, but like I was quite invested in for me at least. I wanted to find some realness for Jimmy to realize that like something's wrong with him. It's interesting to see like that character is the one that's too far gone, and that the infected are in fact not the ones that are too far gone, but this sort of limitation placed on the opioids of what he needs to make that sort of solution to put Samson in the psychosis. I feel like I understood that correctly in the way that the more he does it, the more he is nearing a place of maybe a permanent solution, or is it always limited? Like, do you feel like he would need that all the time?
I know. I think it's a status quo that he's trying to keep going, and he's struggling to do so. And we have to remember, this trilogy opened with him as a young child witnessing, his father being, hey, I'm the messiah of this group. Hey, zombies, come at me, eat me alive so I can lead us to this charge. So in some way he is, carrying the sins of his father, which is very apt with
as a priest,
his whole church, as a
and
priest.
then seeing himself as the re-embodiment of Satan, that like a Satan's child, that Satan has unleashed this horde of zombies, and his dad as a holy man was taken by Satan, so Satan is ruling the world, and that's why
even seeing that his father in some way sacrificed his mother and his sister as well, because they had to stay home, and as we know, that home got invaded when they were watching Teletubbies, which also gets mentioned again in this movie with Teletubbies.
Teletubbies, like saying it wrong, that's funny. I used to watch Teletubbies when I was
me too. Of course I watched it. I don't know many kids. I don't think many kids do now. I think it's very much Paw Patrol, Bluey, whatever the hell is going on.
There was
this
sort of a scare that I don't know if it was fake. It could completely have been a fake headline that like someone tried to cut open the stomach because they wanted to have a TV in there. Something like that. So not great. I don't know if that's it sounds like a fake story.
Hey, talking about cutting, stomachs open, there is a scene that is pretty gruesome, and I think
they're long as well. It's not brief moments. It really extends.
It's quite extensive. By the way, I just wanted to mention, I was sitting in that theater, and all of a sudden, when they go to this group, there's this guy, and I was like, man, he looks so much like Andy Serkis. So much like Andy Serkis. And I said it to Luca, and he's like, oh yeah, whoa, I see too. All of a sudden, in the credits, we see a Serkis, and we're like, I knew it! Son of! Like, the guy looked just like his dad. It was bonkers to me. I'm referring to the actor that was allowed to choose a fight against any of the fingers. And man, he looked so much like his dad. I could not believe I got it right.
Right. I didn't notice that at all, that he looked like him.
What?
But that didn't.
I was really like, bro, that is Gollum. That is, like, he could honestly, if he gets the voice right, he could carry on the legacy of his dad. I can totally see that. But talking about Jack O'Connell, even with the Jimmy Savile inspiration, because with the hair, with the tracksuits, that is what they're referring to. And he said, like, I think Jack O'Connell said in an interview in the Hollywood Reporter, I think what Alex Garland is referring to is like an inspiration as a sort of unchecked power, because as we know, Jimmy Savile was allowed a lot of freedom in this program and turned out to be a huge pervert, massive trials, all that. I think you talked about it as well in the first one. He needed this old Nick story. By the way, can I just say in the subtitles, whenever they said old Nick, it said like the devil. And it's like, bro, they're not saying the devil. It's that old Nick. And they keep translating to the devil. And then they refer to, like, Satan as the devil. And it's like, oh, these subtitles are driving me mad. but then he needs to go to Ray Fiennes to sort of have this conversation. By the way, I love that conversation. You've alluded to it. I love that conversation. It's like, so basically, you're a Satanist and I'm an atheist.
yeah, exactly. Can I say something real quick? Interject.
Yeah, sure.
I know that sequence. If you're doing another montage this year,
oh yeah,
a moment from that dialogue is probably going to be in there, I assume.
I honestly been talking about, there's we've put out the horror montage, and Ray Fiennes is in that horror montage, and again, it's just the dialogue. I think Ray Fiennes should get an Oscar nomination. I know, we're in this whole goddamn thing, but for this performance, he should. The guy is amazing.
I mean, certainly the best performance of the year so far, right?
Yeah, we're only like 3 weeks in, but still, like, for me, it is totally worth it, though. It's totally worth it.
Yeah. He also had a full body performance, you know? He's, like, basically almost naked the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's like he gives it his all, and that's
there's
just
only
what he
one
does
other actor that is a bit more naked that you unfortunately were so sad for.
I wasn't sad. I was saying there's a controversy with the takeover of Nia DaCosta. There is the dick gate, and the dick gate is that the dick is smaller. You know, it was the sort of it is maybe, you know, when not that either of us have done that, but if you snap a picture, depending on your angle, right, it does look smaller or bigger. And now that we've switched from phone cameras to a more cinematic camera, you see there's some shrinkage. I'm just the one willing to point it out. There was some it's there. It's still very notable, very big, very good, very alpha. But it has to go mentioned. The dick is smaller. Thank you.
No comment. But let's honestly talk about Samson as a character as well.
Yeah.
Because we are talking about rehabilitation, and we have the ideology and how that is needed to be constantly reaffirmed. But with the process of rehabilitation, we are quite far in this process. I mean, not in this movie because he has to sort of rush this treatment, this process. But in general, with rehabilitation, you have setbacks, you have moments that are forward, and then you have moments where you're like hesitating. Is this fight worth it to keep fighting for?
No, it's
something along those
worth
lines.
Fighting for.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is it worth it to keep going? That's what I'm trying to say. My God. Because he, at some point, is trying to give Samson peace. And that's when Samson says Moon, which is my favorite movie. I'm kidding. But then he says those words, and it's like, oh my God, that's another milestone. I adore the sequence where Samson is just wandering around. We see what he's seeing, and which is, I find, because Ray Fiennes was also at a certain moment talking about horror and how we're constantly rediscovering, putting the convenience and the tropes of the horror upside down. So now we're seeing this angle from Samson of what he's trying to do with his memory, which is long gone. We always think about, you know, especially with Walking Dead, dead zombies wandering around, walking very slowly. Now you have Samson, the alpha, who is trying to regain his memory. I love the memories of him trying to remember his memories on the train when he's young, and then when he's waking up, hey, I don't have a ticket. And then there's just a mad full amount of zombies who are like, you're not one of us anymore. We're going to attack you. Which is, again, so relevant with this whole ideology thing. And then you got the ideology thing with Jack O'Connell. And this is where it's a societal relevant movie for me. Their identity gets stripped away. You no longer refer to your name. You're just a Jimmy. If you're a woman, you're maybe Jemima. I think one of the other ladies was called. You're stripped of your identity. You are not allowed to have any opinions, because I looked up the meaning of how's that, because they say that thing a lot. And funnily enough,
in the
dictionary, it said said or shouted by a member of the bowling side to ask the umpire to give a decision as to whether a batter is out. So it's sort of like, and that's it. Sort of, you know, have a ending point. It's not like, and how is that? Because that could also be interpreted, I guess. But how is that? It's more of like a final statement, seemingly.
Yeah, it's not like an affirmative to like get the agreement, but it's already you're confirming that it's already been
so
said,
again, this clash of these two storylines is what makes Bone Temple work for me so well. It is not as emotionally hitting as 28 Years Later, which I still prefer. 28 Years Later, 28 Years over Bone Temple by a razor thin margin, though, because these movies, they are something else on their own. I love the way that this series is being produced, being written, being directed. I love all of the choices. I mean, almost all of the choices that they're making. And that is what this trilogy makes it, by so far, quite great for me.
Yeah, I think that, the Kelson character is, in a way, you got these two sides. You got Samson, who is part of the infected, but like sort of a leader as well, right? Infecting more people.
Not really. He's really destroying people. Let's be honest, man.
The way that he rips it and then he eats it. Yeah, I was like, that's why I was hesitating, because I was like, well, we never see him infect anyone. He just like rips them to pieces. Which is sort of what Jimmy does as well. He's not like he's recruiting a ton of people like all the time, but in similar
he's
ways,
giving people a chance to join them, but even though there were 4 people there, you skin 3 of them. Like you only leave 1 over.
The way that you grew your group that is then in the hive mind is very similar with the infected and with Jimmy, and then Kelson being at the center of it all, trying to break it down and break him free from that. The way that it goes about, that takes time, that takes care, and he brings a sort of tries to bring a similar sort of care to his interaction with Jimmy, but obviously he doesn't come off as scared, but then later on he admits that he was like, that's the first time he feared for his life in years, after being surrounded by the infected, which is really telling. But like, that guy who's been like living this life for the last 28 years have sort of settled in with that constant sort of way of that your life could end, but not that was in recent times something that he actually had to fear for, which really speaks to the sort of tranquility of this world that isn't really disrupted by up in the highlight. Like, it's not like it's a big town and like a ton of people wash over come across him all the time. Like, I really enjoyed when I think it was a bit random that Aaron Kellyman Caraman's character, like the way that he came across him and just sort of saw him dancing, and I was like, I couldn't, like, she was a character that was played in a way where I wasn't sure how much agency she has, because she was like sort of placed in as the confidant to Spike, to have someone to say like, oh, this is actually fucked up. And you also slowly uncover the way that this works, that you get more and more roped in and end up believing the thing that is there. And I think there in the writing, you need a couple of characters who are just die hard, they just do it all and it doesn't matter. And then you need the contrast, which from the first one, they were just like all these silly, goofy, Power Rangers type shit with the flips that they were doing. So I really liked that they toned that down. That moment when she's just like watching them from afar, like him dancing, and then her coming back, and we later find out what she thinks about it, that she thought that like, he's actually Satan. So for her to have still being the one that's like sort of maybe considering leaving, but still not understanding any other worldview than the one that Jimmy has given her in a way, is really telling for how the story mirrors the infected and those that are in a cult. And I found that to be quite effective.
Yeah, as you said, I think Erin Kellerman's character perfectly mirrors Samson. But I don't think she was hesitating to leave until the moment when she encounters Spike, because I feel with Spike, it's the first glance at a human reaction that she has gotten in a long time. And I feel like that's the spark that makes her potentially consider a change. And that's why Alfie Williams' part in this movie is still an important one. It's not that he's sidelined compared to the previous one, but he still plays a vital role in the background.
Yeah, I mean, like the first one is a bit more of like forcing him to come of age early.
Yeah.
And then this one is sidestepping it back to him being a kid, you know? That
in some way maturing as well.
In some way maturing, but I would say that like the character that he plays, he needs protection from others. This world isn't how it should be, you know? And the forces that can't protect him aren't really there. And it's like it's so short-sighted and tragic that like he gets caught up with the Jimmies because
can I ask
also there was one thing that I didn't rewatch the first one and I was like, wait, at the end of the like wasn't there a baby?
I was just about to mention it. I don't remember it as well.
Yeah, that baby didn't die, right? He left with the baby.
I have no clue. But I seriously have no clue. The baby? He did leave with the baby because I thought at the end of the years later, I guess we have to rewatch it because we might be spreading misinformation now. But I thought the baby was making noise. Potentially, I guess so.
They killed the baby off screen.
But maybe it was too gruesome to be.
It was. It's also a jump from being up on that, like, you know, being protected.
Yeah, from that cliff ledge.
And then because usually they just like, you know, with the others, they hung him up and then did that. Fighting for him. I don't know if like in each encounter that they do they take the time to like let someone else fight like one of the others. Also the way that like one of those characters killed.
Oh, but she the baby is left at the island's gate. Yeah, so she's back in the community. Whoa. But even I totally forgot that. So I was gonna bring it up as well.
Because we don't see anything, which actually ties us over to like of the island community of Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's not in this movie at all.
Luca and I were talking about it. So again, this movie, great thing on its own. You have the first one being very much about grief, about coming of age, and this one being about ideology and rehabilitation. What is the third one gonna be? Because Jack O'Connell can't be the main villain of this series anymore. He did his part. And now we have the third one, which, spoiler, but I guess we're talking about spoilers quite a while.
Yeah, but it's a big spoiler.
Cillian Murphy is back, and, you know, we knew it the moment we were in that house. I could see people getting, you know, oh, are we going back to the house that they skinned at? No, it's a different house. But it's also very much a community with chickens and etc. Naomi Harris wasn't in this scene. I don't know if it was scheduling conflicts or anything. Maybe she died in the apocalypse. Who knows? But we see Cillian Murphy and his daughter. They see Spike and Erin Kellyman's character being in the distance, being chased by zombies. And are we gonna help them? I guess so. And that's where they leave it off at. I don't know which tone we're gonna have because we were concerned with the tone of Bone Temple with the ending of 28 years later. We saw a glimpse in what they could have been. Now I don't see any glimpse in what the third part of this trilogy will be. So do you have any idea maybe what to expect?
No, it's tough. I mean, I think it's really great writing from Alex Garland, the way that he introduces him again as like teaching history, the in-between times of which is like Alex Garland is never too on the nose about his writing.
I actually thought
maybe
the ending of this one
was a bit on the nose.
Because he's talking about how ideas eventually die out. So again, with this whole ideology thing, and then you got with communism they're talking about. I thought that ending scene was a bit on the nose instead of like, hey, this was the message of this movie, and we're sort of doing it again through history.
I think weren't they talking about? Wasn't he teaching her about like the in between times of that? After World War I, they didn't let sort of Germany rebuild in a way that like it was so under control that like the next conflict was sort of inbound. Wasn't that what they were talking about?
I mean I thought he was talking about ideas and how they are what a group can fuel. So that's why I thought it was a bit on the nose. I said that to Lucas. So well, maybe I remember it.
Right. You know, the one thing I wrote down is the Churchill quote of like never forget. And that to me was like sort of what stuck to like not let history repeat itself. And I don't really know what that means for the third one and that character, like how that's going to play out, because I think Danny Boyle is the one who's taking on the third one again. At least that's like where he's listed.
Well, probably,
but like that was, I think, early on is what they said. But I don't know. Like it definitely won't have. The thing is that, like, you know, they didn't do 28 years later, but they did release 28 years later, 28 weeks after 28 years later.
Yeah.
One. So I don't know what the plan is for the next one. It definitely won't be in 28 weeks.
I was hesitating. We were talking about again, and we were discussing maybe the next movie should sort of go back to its roots and be about survival again. Because survival was very different in each movie. We had Days Later, which is very early. Then we have 28 weeks later, where they sort of rushed the process of returning. And then we have Years Later. Because again, Week was supposed to go worldwide, and now they have sort of, you know, homed it down back to the UK. But maybe Years Later, how did Cillian Murphy survive all this time? Are we going to get an insight into that? Maybe how Naomi Harris, what her fate was in those 28 years that passed. What are the things that Spike is going to learn? Because again, the main players are Ilsa, the baby that was left at the Island Gate. We got Aaron Taylor Johnson. Is he going to decide, like, no, I'm not going to let the apocalypse ruin this relationship. I am going to reconnect. I very much see a team like that resonating in the third part. We got Cillian Murphy. We got Erin Kellerman's character. So there are a lot of players that are ready to be used in the third part.
Do you think it will be back to when you said it's more about survival, that we don't get a true antagonist outside of like the world and the infected, possibly? Or do you think there's going to be like, because I don't see, you know, Aaron Taylor Johnson, I don't see him to suddenly become maybe like, obviously about reconnecting, but like going at all lengths to get his son back. I don't see that happening. That would be a stretch, you know, to turn him into like, so it has to be a new character probably that would be the one that's...
new characters are also in play. I'm definitely not
for sure,
putting out that possibility. But one thing is sure, this trilogy so far, for me, is very much on par. Like, not perfect, but my God, they are quite strong pieces of horror, very much different to each other, but still as enjoyable, if you can call it that, with all the gut wrenching that is happening.
The skinning really got me. The skinning was fucking... And also, like, leaving their bodies just, like, hanging, and then, like, sometimes when they are in the background...
For hours. Bro, I was like, are you not gonna give my guy 5 minutes to, like, recover? You're gonna cut him down and instantly fight. Like, his arms are jelly. That was never a fair fight. Which also, I guess, is sort of... You know, what Jack McConnell wants to see. Oh, hey, can you win despite all the suffering and pain that has happened to you? So that fight was never fair in my opinion.
And that like also puts into perspective, if that guy, you know, wins the fight, he's a finger.
Yeah.
So all of them sort of probably came in a similar-ish way. I don't know how many fingers he's went through.
They all have scars as well, which are probably battle scars of previous fights to the death. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy stuff. Pretty
gnarly.
I actually like this one more than 28 years later.
I like 28 years just a bit more.
I wasn't the biggest fan of 28 years later. There was some things that in that presentation that sort of caught me off guard in a way that I didn't really enjoy, and I think I like approach here a bit more. I'm still not the biggest fan of this
experimental?
I just didn't like the action shots. I didn't like the little sort of...
I liked it.
To me it was like showy, and not in a way where I was like... it distracted me a lot from what was going on. I don't think it was adding much.
I just think it was they tried to keep the same VHS type thing going with the first one, but also to sort of have another
thing.
Because but also because there's so much violence in media nowadays with action movies or whatever, and iPhone, you sort of have a different look, like a more realistic look at the brutality that of the violence that happens in 20 Years Later. So that's why I very much dig it. Also, the sunflower scenes, scenes of the previous movie have been, again, this first previous, because it's the third. My God, bro, the fourth entry, whatever, the trilogy, whatever. With the sunflower scenes have been reposted on social media. And my God, I love the cinematography of the first one. I'm definitely gonna maybe take a look if we're doing our best of the year in update in February, and we're doing cinematography. I think 28 Years Later might get in. In my
isn't that like the shot where they both sit and it's like the sunset?
Yeah, and the sunset. Yeah,
there's some beautiful cinematography.
And
in
this one, and this one also has beautiful cinematography. Again, Nia DaCosta has done some work. I mean, she has done Hedda, she has done The Marvels just in 2023, she has done Candyman in 2021. So she's done a lot of movies in just a short span of time. She was actually willing to take a break after Hedda, but then 28 Years Later came calling. And I'm glad she took on the job. She did a phenomenal job, along with the writers, along with the producers, the editing team, the cast. I think, this is a high bar to beat for me in horror. Like, it started off strong. You have to know, a few years ago, I mean, I'm talking maybe even a decade, because I'm doing the 2016 challenge. January was a dry period. That was a dumpster month. You always had a shitty horror movie opening that week. Now the standards are like this. Once again, talking about the evolution of horror. My God, it's only looking to improve from here on.
Yeah, they have to have more movies that need to come out, that have the first one come out in June and then 28 weeks later, and then you solve the January issue, because that's in January 28 weeks later. Have you seen the Candyman remake that she made in 2021?
I did not. The only movie I have seen of her is The Marvels, but I'm not gonna judge her on that. All right.
Yeah, the lowest grossing MCU film that also wasn't good. But she also hated that, I think, from, like, she really hated working on it.
No, but, like, even The Marvels, like, there were flashes of greatness in there. I mean, I never felt like this is a bad director. The Marvel, it's just a bad produced movie.
Oh, yeah. Sure, yeah.
But I have seen things of Littlewoods. I have seen things of Candyman. I have even seen scenes of Hedda. I just haven't sat in a full watch yet.
Yeah, the thing is with Candyman, that like, I think from what I could tell, a lot of that, like, sort of visceral imagery that she can create, that also has sort of a double meaning sometimes, is something that she did really well in Candyman. I think that was such a great remake. I gave that like an 8 out of 10, that movie. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, it just speaks to her, like, being able to, like, remake something, or with the MCU, I guess less successfully, but, like, taking on and continuing something, even with Hedda, with, like, sort of an adaptation of a novel, and then sort of twisting and changing roles to fit her. I didn't really like Hedda that much, but a lot of people are really connecting with that. I think it's great. The performances in it are pretty good as well. I even like that part of it, just not the whole movie. So yeah, exciting director, and looking forward to what she does next. Definitely not.
I imagine she wants a break now.
Oh yeah, the break. Yeah, no, yeah. Didn't Paul Mescal recently say, "Oh, you'll see me. You'll get a break from me for a few years, and you'll see me back with the fucking Beatles movie." 2027
my God.
Or 2028, which is crazy. I guess I would love to see him in some more things, but I guess he's taking a break.
But I gave 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, a 8 out of 10. Great one.
And I gave it a 7 out of 10. Very much worth checking out.
You don't want to up it? Well. You don't want to up it after our discussion?
No. It's a 7 out of 10 to me, but it's a good 7, solid 7.
But then we have two movies. One is a new release. One is a new release on VOD. So we're going to talk about the VOD release first. We're going to talk about Rental Family, starring Brendan Fraser.
An American actor in Tokyo struggles to find purpose until he lands an unusual gig, working for a Japanese rental family agency, playing stand-in roles for strangers. As he immerses himself in his clients' worlds, he begins to form genuine bonds to blur the lines between performance and reality. Ooh! Brendan Fraser, since he's been sort of gone for a long time from the acting world, and his recent return in the last few years, I feel like he's shown himself to be quite versatile as an actor, and in this movie, in Rental Family, he plays such a character that has sort of a lot to give. He sort of plays that sort of solitude that is longing for connection in a way that gets work, but also human connections. In this movie that is, I believe, very cheesy at times. It's heavy on the score. It definitely wants to pull some tears out of you, but it also has a pretty easy theme and narrative to hop on to go along with. Because it's just about a bunch of characters trying to connect and bringing out a better version of themselves, and sort of the cultural differences of Japan and America, the way that you go about solving things head on, or a movie about honesty as well. But it tackles them in a way where it's not really that introspective. I think a lot of the stuff is just processed through one-to-one connections, one-to-one interactions, which can feel a bit oversimplified, but and it also, I think, from this rental service, right, that they tease here with that agency of him taking on gigs, I thought that for sure we're gonna stick with a few returning customers, but I thought that in reality this is more of a one-off gig, but I know nothing about this industry. But then I found it really compelling with the sort of two people that we stick with, and I think in both of them there's a lot to resonate with, and you could really feel the sort of emotional toll it has on you to tear that he is not able to leave sort of the acting sort of at his doorstep as he gets home, but it's something that lingers with him, that stays with him. I quite enjoyed this. I think it's something that can honestly, really narrowly ride the line of being too cheesy and feeling sort of emotionally wrought and sort of wrong and off in places. And I think for most of the movie it doesn't. I think it also speaks to a great kid performance that is just so darn cute. You're no, I just want the best for that kid, man. Don't hurt her. And then the old guy who just has so much left in life, and it's once again a reminder to not write people off just because they're old, and you feel you need to care for them in a similar way that you would care for a baby. Just put up guards and keep them in, but manage to take him along with you to show them what, or take him along with you, essentially. That's not keep him in, but expand their world with their limited possibilities. And I found that quite beautiful. But yeah, what did you think about Rental Family?
So Rental Family, I really liked it a lot. It definitely plays with tokenism, because they, at even a certain point, they say, oh yeah, we need an American token white guy. And then it's okay, because this movie at the sort of spoilers, but Brendan Fraser has such a good impact on these people, also sort of makes things good again for everybody there. So at that point you do have a bit of tokenism that that is going on. But you balance that with Brendan Fraser. Now, he doesn't, again, the critique of he plays himself, we don't do that. But they definitely play around with his presence in the industry, being an actor that was away from the industry for so long. Then he finds something he adores. And especially because he is an actor now, that with his return to the acting world, he has received so much love. Now we have a role where he's giving it back to the people, and it is definitely a play on Brendan Fraser as a person with the actor that I found very interesting. Now, my only real flaw with this movie is that it starts out as a quite social commentary on this on Japan, because he's marrying a woman at a certain point to let her escape to Canada, I believe it was. But hey, she has to be married first. Her parents have to see who she's with, how she's gonna leave. And when they do go back to the hotel room after the wedding, then it becomes, hey, she's gay, she's a lesbian. That's the sort of relief that he offers to them. And I thought like, oh, that's a great social commentary. Then we get this kid. Hey, she needs a father. She needs a good figure to get into this school. And it's like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. Then we get this loner guy. And I wanted to focus on the loner guy because he actually doesn't really get a part in this movie. Shortly after seeing this movie, I saw an article on VRT. And it's this app in China that is very popular since the beginning of this year. And it is titled, Are You Dead? Like, that's the name of the application, Are You Dead? And it is supposed to be like people that are clicking a button in the app to know that they're still alive. If you don't press the button for 2 days in a row, then an emergency contact, gets called or mentioned or warned. And that the popularity of that app is supposed to flame the discussion about loneliness. And I think that is sort of the thing that this movie also refers to. And with that loner guy, because the only thing that Brendan Fraser comes to do there is to game with him and to get him out of his shell in that room of his. And I wanted a bit more of that because as it went on, we really focused more on the kid and the older man, which I think what you said about the older man is great indeed. Like, do enlarge the world of the older person within their limited possibilities.
But it is very much the one over, like the way that it goes about. I think the screenplay is probably the weakest part of this movie.
Yeah.
Because it, like, his resolution is like going off to one place, finding the one thing that gives him closure. That's like very oversimplified way of like the manifestation of a sort of MacGuffin for a person. And I think then the storyline with the kid is a bit more ambiguous because what does the kid actually need, right? What is best for the kid? And that's like really like harder to tell because she doesn't really know. She just wants someone who has not been in her life to be in her life, and then someone who is there in her life, like the complexities of does it really matter like who that person biologically is to you if you just want someone there? And then like the uneasiness of the distrust that we will like justly place of like just a random older guy taking care of a kid that he's not related to. And it is like it gives you that sort of unease as well from the perspective of the mom. And I think it plays it very expected at every turn. But the thing is, if you got a good core and you just play out all the little turns, you still got an enjoyable game to watch. And I think that's sort of what this movie is. And you also fill out the supporting cast in the rental family with some really talented people. I mean, just Takehiro Hira, incredible. Mari Yamamoto, I've seen her in the Monarch series over on Apple, like the one with Godzilla. I think she's a recurring character in that, and in season 2 now. Season 3. I don't know. I've seen a new season that's not out yet, but she's more of like a presence in that series that's still on embargo. But she's in it. That's all I can say. And she's good. She's good individually. Okay, that's not breaking the embargo. But like they add not a ton to it. They also like very like characters that are just kind of set in of what they believe, but they're both like they're great presences in the film. They like stand out not just as a supporting cast that's all just there for the Brendan Fraser show, but it really fills in like the whole world there. And I think it's a feel good movie that you'll
Can I also say something? How we often say, oh, this is such an A24 movie? Can I say this is such a Searchlight movie? Because with a real pain, and this one, it really feels like a feel-good, heartwarming type of movie. I feel like these are the type of movie that Searchlight Pictures is making nowadays. And they don't make movies that often anymore compared to... back in the day when they weren't under Disney ownership. They definitely toned down their production, unfortunately. but whenever they do come out with something, it's quite a wholesome thing that has a few deep cuts in it, and I feel like Rental Family fits their repertoire quite, their mold that they have made quite well.
Right. I don't know if I would agree, honestly, because I don't really see that in the... I don't know, and I also wouldn't say Rio Pain is like a feel-good movie overall, but I don't know, it does make sense that it's like Searchlight, and then it's nowhere to be found in the Oscar race. Like, that part to me makes sense.
Unfortunately.
Not that this is like one of the 10 best movies of the year, but I could definitely see it be like one of those legacy films that do get into the Oscar race, or be more talked about 10 years ago, but then not anymore.
And I just want to quickly talk about the project that Brendan Fraser has coming up, because he had this small role in Brothers, but the only real roles he had, he had The Whale, he had a small part in Killers of the Flower Moon, and then you had the small part in Brothers, and now he basically has this big leading role in Rental Family. He had The Mummy 4 coming up from the Radio Silence duo, the duo that has done Ready or Not and the Scream movies, and Abigail as well. You got Assassination with Barry Levinson, starring Al Pacino, Jessica Chastain, Bryan Cranston, Jared Leto. Behind the Curtain of Night, I see on Letterboxd, and Diamond in a movie directed by Andy Garcia, also starring Andy Garcia. Vicky Creeps. Hey, Vicky Creeps, whenever she's in the movie, that elevates that movie on my radar. Also starring Bill Murray as well. So it is curious to see how we're gonna see his persona evolve in those movies, especially in The Mummy 4, since that is the movie that elevated him to this different stratosphere. So yeah, curious to see what he does next.
But yeah, overall, I think this is an enjoyable film. I gave it a 7 out of 10, and
I gave it an 8 out of 10, but I'm actually 7.5. We're going in between. I know you don't like it, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
I honestly, I don't know where you got that from. I don't like when you write it into your Letterboxd reviews. I don't. I don't really mind it. Like, you can do 7.3 on the podcast, and I don't care. But I don't like it as like
okay. Then I do 7.3, and I'm kidding. I'll do 7.5.
I'll keep moving you down. I actually want you to do 6.7. Anyways,
I'm not gonna indulge. But we're gonna rip a fat one now, right?
I don't like that. As last episode, you had the transitions on point. I don't know if I like this one. All right, let's talk about the. I don't know. For me, in my editing mind, I'm like, this is definitely not staying in. But like, how do I make the transition? And do I 100% cut it out? What context do I cut out? My life is one question after
the rip. There you got your transition.
I actually can't rip one because since we started recording, I do actually need to go on the toilet. Let's talk about The Rip, which sees Matt Damon and Ben Affleck reunite in a project over on Netflix. After a team of Miami cops discovers millions in cash inside a derelict stash house, trust phrase as everything and everyone is called into question. This is a spotlight section usually reserved for the better movies, like stuff that we didn't end up seeing, but also sometimes for recent releases. And I feel like that's where The Rip falls into. It is sort of a like the tags on Letterboxd. It has like 4 of them. I believe it has like crime, thriller, mystery, and action.
Oh god, too many.
I think the action part of this, what I wanted to have more, was to me quite underwhelming in The Rip. And then it is almost like a one location movie, all in that like stash house for a long time. Playing on the dynamics and the misdirections of the cast and what their alliances are. Obviously, we, for most of the film, are seeing this as sort of a everyone's in for themselves. Maybe there are like groups of 2 that are together that are conspiring against the others. You're trying to figure out what's happening, but I feel like it's the type of movie where you can't figure out what's going on based on what's being presented to you. It's all speculation that in a way feels more like a retcon or like than a twist, if that makes sense. And I just found that to be rather disengaging. but still has a star-studded cast, with Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Tiana Taylor, Kyle Chandler, Stephen Yeun, Scott Adkins, who you really enjoy. Like, to me, I didn't have high expectations, and it sort of met those. But yeah, what did you think of The Rip?
I think The Rip is a solid B action movie, so you can call it that. But talking about Joe Carnahan as a director, he has made, I think, 2 great, like really good movies. That being The Grey with Liam Neeson in the Wild, and Narc with Ray Liotta. Really enjoyed that movie as well. And then you got his, I want to say, less serious films. You got Cop Shop, which I enjoyed as well. You got Boss Level, which is a video gamey type movie.
Can I say something real quick? I always forget that, like, when we talk about, like, an action director, you have seen all of the films. It's crazy to me. I'm just like, oh yeah, I've seen The A-Team and seen The Grey, his 2 most popular movies. And then it's Kevin's turn. He's like, oh yeah, I've seen all of this, and this is what I thought about this and that. It's always so impressive, because I didn't know that you've seen all of it. Wait, sorry, back to you.
Yeah, I've seen, and then you got his less serious movies, Stretch, A-Team, Smoking Aces. Those I enjoyed a bit less. If you want to do, I haven't seen Shadow Force, but you have, if I recall correctly.
I have.
And he has also released like a movie, Not Without Hope. Very, like, it's already on VOD, if I recall correctly. Maybe I'll watch it,
recently.
maybe I won't. Yeah,
that came out like a few weeks ago.
And now we got to Rip with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who are very much game for this type movie. They talked about how long they tried to separate themselves from each other over the years with Good Will Hunting and then Dogma. And after that, we were like, oh, we have to, leave a bit of space.
Only Dunkin' commercials, Dunkin' Donuts commercials they can do together, but not a movie.
Except for that, no. And The Rip is a, it's very much almost on the line of being a serious movie, but I also can't really take it seriously with the amount of twists they're trying to do. But what I will compliment this movie on, this movie has a certain exposition scene. My God, they just in the back of a truck, and it is an exposition scene. Like, it is an exposition scene, Ewan, but it is delivered with some great environmental. Because they are in the back of that truck, and it is getting dark sometimes. Guns are out. There are flashes of a phone, so you can see the reactions of it. That is some great, and the exposition itself isn't great, but that is a great way of conveying exposition.
Well, it's because giving another person the exposition dump, like diegetically, obviously, in a way that, yes, is towards the audience, but in that same time, you are building more tension, and it usually isn't happening with exposition, right? Yeah. Because, well, sometimes you are doing it like the bad guy explains, like, his reasons. So that's been, like, obviously now dissected in the last couple of years, and so many ways to, like, misdirect you there. But this is, like, this is a straight up, like, movie that could have been done 10-15 years ago. Like, there's nothing really of its time, I believe, and that can be oddly refreshing if, like, that's sort of wholly irrelevant. You just focus on making individual moments in a movie good that don't speak to something larger. Obviously, in an action movie, that's most of the time like that. There's no deeper themes than the thrill of trying to stay alive. I don't know what you thought, but, like, a lot of this takes place at night, or, like, as it's about to, in the evening times, and it's pretty dark, and a lot of, like, the shooting to me, or, like, the action was a bit underwhelming.
The action was okay. What I did like a lot were the muzzle flashes, because we've turned from this era. You watch Collider VFX React. You know how muzzle flashes can be bad, can be absolutely atrocious. But here, whenever there are shots fired, you really have that bright flash of light on the environment. You have a little bit of the shaky cam, because it isn't just like pew pew. Like, the whole rooms are oftentimes shakes whenever shots are fired in this movie, and that kind of action I do appreciate. But for the rest, I mean, there isn't really that much action. It's very much more of a dialogue-driven movie. hey, this is what we're doing. And the only modern thing about this movie, I guess, is maybe like, oh, the abuse of power from cops who, are in control. That's maybe the only thing.
Even that, I feel
a bit of commentary.
Yeah, even that felt like by the end of it, which I guess we're keeping it spoiler free if we can.
Yeah.
Felt to me very undercut in a way, because we do have certain people portraying certain characters, and
there's a revenge angle as well. Yeah.
I feel like it's hindering any sort of commentary on that. They just like are obviously portrayed to be like these people, or like they are like a group of people who usually take a bit of it.
And to my annoyance, Scott Adkins isn't that much in the movie, but I have to say though, Ben Affleck and Scott Adkins as brothers I totally believe that. They look quite alike, and for that to work. But Tiana Taylor, hey, people are, oh my god, Tiana Taylor in this movie. She's not really in this movie. She's counting money for most of the movie.
She is counting money. Basically, it's
which is probably her actual check as well.
I think like I always love to see Steven Yeun in a film. He's given an interesting part here as well.
I thought Matt Damon was given a quite interesting part as well, because he's supposed to be this very straight-headed guy, and here he's more playing a rough type, very much against the grain type character for him.
It would make more sense if the guy who lost his kid would be played by Ben Affleck and not by Matt Damon, right? He just sort of fits that role a bit better.
And I will also say The Rip is a bit of an improvement over a certain movie called The Instigators that was done with another Affleck, Casey Affleck. So this movie is a lot better than The Instigators. Even though The Instigator might have had a bit better action.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because it's more dynamic, it goes into different places. I feel like I agree, like the muzzle flashes, and you said Collider, but Corridor.
Corridor, yeah.
Yeah, is like doing those breakdowns. I feel like it's a lot of like, how would you know that otherwise? How would you know? But I feel like the way that they keep mentioning it is sort of.
Also, I just watched a lot of action, so that's how I notice.
Yeah, and I think here it's done well to like, have a dark scene that is lit up by muzzle flashes. That's great stuff, and I believe they probably did that. It probably also would, honestly, I know it's a tired conversation, it probably would look better on a big screen than it does on Netflix, especially the dark, especially with that compression. It looked
because there is suspense in this movie.
It looked fine on mine. I got a screener version of it, which usually is also a bit lower bitrate than
I did watch it on Netflix. Yeah.
I don't know if they have the 4K. They probably have. I don't know. I really, it's hard to tell but
on Netflix they had the 4K thing. Yeah.
No, I mean because I got a screener for it. I don't know if they upload the 4K for the screener, because it's like a slightly bit different version of it.
And some of the lighting was pretty good, but you also had this mist, like a bit too misty for me. Yeah, and I wasn't sure about that choice.
Like there's a few, like for example, like the cartel thing, that like, this is cartel money probably that they dumped there, and then them slowly realizing that the whole neighborhood is basically empty. This is not really a spoiler because I'm not doing anything with character related if you still want to see it. And that to me is like something, how the fuck do you not notice that before? It's like, it's sort of certain cop things where they're so concerned of just like staying in that house where, I don't know, like they're not supposed to be like really smart characters until some of them are like really have it all figured out. But I don't really like a movie that this could be considered a slight spoiler, so maybe skip ahead to the next thing. I'm not saying specific things of who does what, but I don't like a movie that plays out very neatly by the end, especially when in action. I feel like it's way more thrilling when people are like,
when it's a bit more gritty. Yeah, and the ending is very much hey, we did that,
exactly. Yeah, like this is an actual like at the end giving her like, she gets this amount of money from this from and it felt like the movie had to comment a bit on like what they made her suffer through,
struggle.
I don't know.
But overall, this movie has some highlights with that exposition that is delivered in a great environment. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are always willing to watch on the screen, and I think that is what people are going to this movie for on Netflix. So I give it a 6 out of 10, but I'm more on like a 5.5, that type. It is a serviceable movie.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I also give it a 6 out of 10, but I would also be around more like the 5.5. If I have another 3-star movie, a bunch of 3-star movies are going to be above it by the end of the year.
In terms of the Netflix action movie bar, because I believe Back in Action, the Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx movie, that was the first action movie they released on Netflix over there. So that's sort of the bar, and I guess The Whip is just above that bar, but it's not a high one. The Night Comes For Us. If you haven't seen it, that movie still slaps and is on Netflix. So wait, you haven't seen it, right? Yeah.
Well, I started it and I didn't love it from the beginning, yes, so I was like, a different time. So we thought, in addition to our spotlight reviews, which are usually new releases or some stuff from the festival circuit that is now on VOD or whatever, it's also worth having a look at maybe some more world cinema stuff, which for us in recent times just means Asian movies. But I'm sure
next week Asian movies again.
But yeah, and we'll look at like older films here as well. So it's not just world cinema, but it's also world cinema in a way of like looking back. And when we were watching the Johnny To movie Exiled, I just thought that, hey, here's another film that both of us have never seen. We've both seen the US like remake of the film, but not the original. How could we? We definitely have to catch up on Infernal Affairs, movie that came out in 2002, and I believe that like 4 years later, Scorsese had already remade it in The Departed. So let me give you the synopsis of this movie. Although we'll talk about the differences between The Departed and Infernal Affairs as well. It's quite interesting too. John Wing Yan, a young police officer, has been sent undercover as a mole in the local mafia. Lau King Ming, a young mafia member, infiltrates the police force. Years later, their older counterparts, Jen Wing Yan and Inspector Lau King Ming, respectively, race against time to expose the mole within their midst. And although there were a lot of names in there, which are difficult for me to pronounce.
You want to say all the cast members? I feel like
I'm good. Well, I mean, there's some really standouts like Andy Lau and Tony Leung, Anthony Wong Chao Sung. Like these to me were the 3 highlights, and then there's also the mafia boss who's played by Eric Tsiang Chi Wei. Give me pointers on I feel like each time we review an Asian movie, people should just comment like you do on Letterboxd, like 6.5 or like 7.5 or 3.2, whatever the score is for my overall reading comprehension skills, and maybe I can level up. But you got to me, I'd say star-studded cast of
absolutely
of these like Hong Kong actors, and I was quite surprised that it's a co-directed film as well by Alan Mak Siu Fai and Andrew Lau Wai Kyung. Now I'm overextending what I can do with the name reading, but
not really.
It's over refreshing to see a movie done by Hong Kong filmmakers, and you can sort of feel that like this movie came out in 2002, and you can feel that like our best filmmakers are the ones that just seek out some of Hong Kong cinema and just like take whatever they do and then bring it to the Western audience. And I don't really have a complete timeline of the sort of things that they use here, but it's very interesting filmmaking. Like they similar to maybe someone like Park Chan-wook, who doesn't really hold back on like how he presents his frame and how he edits his stuff. They just go with whatever feels like is working best for the scene and not really holding themselves back to the constraints of what is set to be the norm for visual presentation in movies. So you end up getting sometimes really cheesy feeling moments, sometimes some baffling choices. Like I noticed that in Motorway and in this movie as well, that like the score sometimes drops out really quickly. And to me, that is like something that throws me and takes me out of a movie. That's one of the reasons why I didn't really like Motorway that much, because I feel like the score just like was like dialed down from like 1 second to the next. But all the rest of it, like building the tension in a room full of people who are just like You know, you understand everyone's perspective, what's at stake for them, what they got to figure out in a moment's time. That's such impressive filmmaking that I feel like in American filmmaking and even Scorsese, in the way that The Departed does, it does, like, you are even more aware of it because you're made aware of it. And in this film, you are more intrinsically, just by watching what unfolds, sort of made aware of like the stakes in there. It feels less spelled out to you, and there might just be a perspective of someone who has to read the subtitles other than like just hearing it. Maybe that like perspective really warps my understanding and my perception of it all. But I think this is like really expertly directed and acted, and although I do feel like a bunch of the choices are pretty silly and pretty cheesy, like the way that like I wouldn't say this is a masterpiece and like holds up forever and ever, but I also wouldn't say that it's like specifically like off 2002. It's like a weird in between, but I really had a great time with Infernal Affairs.
About the editing, I saw on Letterboxd like, oh man, wasn't music video editing in movies so great back in the day? And I had to kind of laugh because that's also just Hong Kong filmmaking in general. That type of quick cut, going from a moment of fire of that score going to instantly a moment of silence, like you said. And that's quite an intrinsically Hong Kong characteristic in filmmaking. So I wasn't really put off with that. But hey, again, a lot of these actors that pop up, Gordon Lamb specifically as well, who plays one of the other cops, you know, at the end. He's also been in a bunch of Johnny To movies. So this is a star-studded cast. And again, we've seen 3 Anthony Wong movies this year already, with Exiled, Motorway, and now Infernal Affairs. And the guy just knows to hold the presence in the room, especially opposite the bad guy in this movie. And you know, I didn't know that you watched The Departed after Infernal Affairs. I thought we just were going to talk about, so you can compare it much better than me. But from what I remember, this movie is way faster paced and edited than The Departed. There isn't that much sulking into characters, that much heavy dialogue over a drink in this movie, because The Departed is an entire 50 minutes longer. From what I remember, in Infernal Affairs, there's also barely any romance. There's a need or a want for human connection, but like there's no kissing or sex scenes, anything like that in Infernal Affairs. This movie is a bit more about, you know, it is sort of about corruption, but it's also about loyalty and the greater good and the brotherhood. What do you put in front of the other, which is also very much a Hong Kong and just Asian characteristic in filmmaking in general. But what are the comparisons or the differences that you specifically saw because you watched both on the same day?
The thing is, I watched Infernal Affairs. It was already pretty late, and I was like, I really want to see The Departed right now. I really want to see it. And I went to bed at like 2:30 in the morning.
Of course you did, of course.
I think the big difference is that it gives you context a bit more to sort of everyone. It also plays up Jack Nicholson's character a lot more. The way that he's the sort of the mob boss and what he represents in the lives of these people. He's given way more screen time. There's also Vera, what's her name? Like the love interest, which in The Departed is more of a like dynamic of, it's something that the fake cop guy played by Matt Damon can't really bring something to the relationship, but the way that they show it is just like one time where the next morning they talk about that he couldn't get it up to have sex, and then it's never mentioned again. That they have like any sort of issues in their relationship, that it's just sort of implied. And DiCaprio is then, I feel like to me, DiCaprio plays more of the hero character in this, because he is still the guy who's like, couldn't get, it's not his choice that he doesn't get into the police force. They tell him he's not gonna get in ever, so this is his only option, because he comes from a background of crime. And that to me is like the less interesting parts of the characterization. Then in Infernal Affairs, you are giving no background on both of them, and they feel like a blank slate basically, for the story that they're trying to tell of like one who's loyal to this thing but works for the other thing, and then the other way around, which makes for really intriguing cinema that's not really like that deep, other than like, you know, the unbound loyalty of whatever you adhere to, the institutions that you belong to or that you feel like you belong to. And then this one is way more about the betrayal of like sort of the departed, with Jack Nicholson's character being the one that's like also like big spoilers for The Departed, I guess, if you haven't seen that. But honestly, both of these films have been out for 20 years at least.
20 plus years, yeah.
Yeah. But the way that he also was like, Jack Nicholson was also the rat, right? He was ratting them out to the FBI, which I totally forgot. I forgot that was like a part of the Departed. To me, that movie becomes very much a mess in the third act. It is such an entertaining mess to unfold. Like, I remember seeing that for the first time. The elevator door.
I know,
the copy, bam, and then shortly after, like basically everyone dying. And then I didn't like to me it was crazy that, like, you know, this movie won Best Picture. What do you think? Which performance got an Oscar nomination? It was only one.
I know, Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg. Like, what the fuck? Mark Wahlberg is in this movie. He's loud. They also like to sling around the N-word, the F-word a bunch. About, like, basically every character is like, one slur. One slur for me, please. And I think it's not, I don't know, that didn't really add that much to me. It's not also a big critique of the film in my mind, but I just, like, he was basically the only pure character who was just on one side, not really playing both lines or like the head of something. So he comes out on top by the end, being the only one left standing, and sort of everyone else perishes. But I think the moments that Scorsese takes one-to-one from Infernal Affairs are the ones that are the best. Like when they have that sort of exchange that is very similar of like trying to get him and then not getting him. And the way that it's played in The Departed is because one guy fucked up and didn't place the camera in the correct way.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, a lot of it is sort of inconveniences that made more sense in the Infernal Affairs. It felt a bit more thought out on a character sense. But like honestly, I took down my rating for The Departed a bit. Just because I now had a comparison for it. I thought it was a bit underwhelming on the rewatch. Still a really well made movie with some incredible performances, but yeah, I feel like if I had to compare the two, they are right on the same level. They're like very different in its presentation and characterizations and stuff, but I feel like they are on equal levels.
And Infernal Affairs feels more like a cat and mouse movie, where at The Departed it feels like, oh, there's all these different players, like very convoluted. But also
maybe it's also because in the American way, there's always the federal force above it all that is like the true understanding of American sort of justice being brought to. If you go one step higher in the police force, you'll actually find someone who's not corrupt. And obviously with the history of Hong Kong, that isn't really existent, where like the police actually taking up a like sort of a significant place. So there is like a gang that's going up against the cops. Is very much them going at each other's throats, and it feels like in the States it's way more about like them being able to catch the other person. And that whole dynamic makes this sort of comparison of one guy who flips the worlds way more apt, way more like believable, that someone would buy into the life of crime, because it can be in ways just as sort of, you know, safe of a world, depending on, or unsafe. And I think the story just works better in Hong Kong than it does when you adapt it one-to-one into like, and then you have to add layers of complexity to make it work in the States, and that's one of the reasons why it takes 50 minutes longer. And it also feels like you're playing with a bit more of an ego of some people. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe not intentionally, but like a lot of scenes are like dragged out to give them these really iconic moments. But they do.
How many iconic moments does Jack Nicholson have? I mean, my God.
It's crazy, yeah. But then I feel like, I don't know, he gets like the ending shot, for example, of like the golden thing and the rat on the balcony.
Yeah.
It is a bit on the nose, a bit. The whole movie was very much on the nose, which is fine. But
also, I adore the skyscraper shots. When they're the clouds in the blue and they're on top, I adore those shots so much. Like, it's so iconic that it's even the cover of the Criterion Blu-ray, I believe. And you have to know, Infernal Affairs, there isn't just one Infernal Affairs. There are 3, and 2 and 3 also came out in 2003. Yeah. So it's just a year after. So very short. Now, to be fair, the second one is a prequel, and their younger versions do absolutely not look like their older versions, in my opinion. They even look a bit taller than the. But that's fine.
Yeah, and I think both of them are prequels. No, isn't the?
Oh yeah. Well, they are prequels, but.
Yeah, it's also very interesting. This is a spoiler for Infernal Affairs. There's on Criterion. There's the alternate ending that they had to recut for the, to go through the sort of
censorships.
The censorship, the Chinese censorship. It's just like when he gets out of the elevator at the end, they just arrest him immediately, and he walks out the door, and then the credits roll. It's very funny.
What?
Yeah, it's like the whole everything's the same. And I thought that like some of the kills, like some of the blood splatter would be too much. That's not what it was about at all. It's about the life of crime paying off. That's what wasn't okay. So he comes out, even though he has misled all of them. They just come and arrest him, and there's no pretense as to why. They just arrest him. It's very funny. And then like the credits come abruptly as well. They just like start rolling mid-scene.
I do like the change of them taking the elevator, and because like Leo gets shot in the elevator and Tony Long gets shot
from the elevator. I feel like that scene was specifically played for people who know Infernal Affairs, and I think it so brilliantly plays it. I think this was a great choice, and obviously it still catches people off guard that don't know it. And I don't know if I think that part to me was in Infernal Affairs, it's so quickly cut short with Tony Leung's character, right? He's like, and it's also the other guy who shoots him, and I think in Infernal Affairs the choice of him killing the other guy happens as he is in the elevator and the bullet holes come through. Just also visually quite stunning sequence, to do that. I think that's brilliant, but it also takes away sort of us showing, like being shown why he specifically does it, that specific moment. You obviously feel like it's self-preservation, but that is all shown in, as Matt Damon, a bit more of like badassery. And again, it does play of like there is another instance there is another guy who's basically coming for justice with Mark Wahlberg. I feel like him killing him is the only reason he got an Oscar nomination, because people were like, I don't know what, like, did they love him so much in his presence that he had before? I don't know. I can't get over it. It's such a weird Oscar nomination to me. Not that he was bad in it, but he wasn't like, I don't know. He wasn't a standout to me.
I do think Mark Wahlberg is standout, but that's also because he has great scenes with Alec Baldwin. Like, they play off each other so well. Like, in The Departed. But the last thing I also want to say is with Anthony Wong, because I just adore Anthony Wong when he nearly escapes the henchman, because he's like, oh yeah, honey, the golf course, and then like that's such a great moment of like, I almost got away. But Infernal Affairs, 8 out of 10. I guess I'll have to watch Departed sometimes soon. But
I mean, you don't have to.
I mean, it's pretty memorable. I know that on the Big Ringer picture, they had the most rewatchable movies of the 21st century. And like The Departed was like number 6, which is for a 150-minute movie. It's quite a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it's been Scorsese's biggest film in a long... Like, I feel like that was his biggest film since then, right? Has he made a bigger film since The Departed? I feel like he hasn't.
I would say Kill of the Flower Moon. I mean...
I feel like culturally, in the last 20 years, or 25 years, what's the Scorsese movie that they remember? I feel like
Wolf of Wall Street. Come on, man.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, that easily takes it. Never mind.
I mean, even Shutter Island, even though I know it was supposed to be.
I feel like, but I feel like Departed is such a movie that is liked by a lot of people. That's why one of the reasons why it's only Best Picture winning film that Scorsese has made so far. Even though it's, I think we both wouldn't say it's not his best, but it's
I agree. But that's it for this week.
Yeah, check out Infernal Affairs. You can watch it on the Criterion channel. There's also the sequel, like the sequels, which are prequels. They are
maybe I'll watch them. Who knows?
On Criterion. I was this close to like either starting up Infernal Affairs 2 or The Departed, and then I was like, nah, it doesn't make sense to also one up you and watch the prequels to this. That feels like I'm almost undercutting you. So I might save it for some later time.
But next week we are talking about Hamnet because that finally releases.
For you, yeah.
We also have on VOD Merrily We Roll Along, the stage production with Daniel Radcliffe, Jonathan Graf, and Linda Mendes. We also have SpongeBob SquarePants. Oh no, the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants is also on VOD. And I guess those are the movies that we are going to talk about on the podcast next week. Are we going to talk about breaking news? I don't know if we are doing the Spotlight World Cinema again. So.
I feel like next week we'll have our hands full with the Oscar nominations as well. There might be a bit of discussion for the final time until hopefully March with the Oscars. So we'll see if we can fit it in. But yeah, lots of movies to watch regardless. In the meantime, I think, even though there's not a ton of new stuff coming out. Also, I wanted to hang up a poster of Rebuilding, but under the light, it looked really glary, so I took it back down. But that movie is now also out on VOD, so a final shout out to Rebuilding. Go see that.
Right. So like, subscribe, comment below how our Asian name pronunciations are.
Yeah, but you didn't. Can you give us one to like cap off the episode?
I said Gordon Lam.
That sounded very American. Similar to the way I said Ralph instead of Ralph.
How about we end it here, huh?
Okay, sure. Cut.